Good morning, folks. Today I'm going to meet a guy called Stewart who's been in Thailand for 10 years and he's going to share with us his thoughts, opinions and experiences about life in Thailand. Let's get into it. Okay, Stewart, so tell us, where are you from?
I'm from England, specifically the south coast. I usually say I'm from Brighton because if I say I'm from Worthing, no one knows where that is.
Okay, so where is Brighton? Is south under London, right? South of London?
Yeah, it's about an hour south of London. It's on the coast.
Okay.
You can see France on a clear day. And I'm from a small town called Worthing, about, I think it's 9 miles west. Population now is 120,000.
Okay.
Gives you an idea of how big it is.
All right. So now I know you've been in Thailand for 10 years, so let's go right back to the very start. You're back in the UK.
Yeah.
What happens?
I had no intention of coming here. I didn't even know where Thailand was on a map. I knew nothing about the country. What happened is typically the opposite of what usually happens. I was in a pool hall in England. I was playing pool and I met a girl who happened to be from Thailand. Long story short, she took me back here. Typically, a foreigner comes to Thailand, picks up a girl in a bar, marries her and takes her home. So I think she was getting revenge, just getting one back for her own country.
Well, okay. So you got married in the UK and then came back to Thailand, or what happened?
Yeah, well, the British immigration system is full of red tape. I mean, it's convoluted and it's a headache. The long story short, she was there on student visa. We were together 2.5 years while her visa continued. She couldn't extend the student visa any further because the British system, you have a maximum of 3 years on student visas. She'd been there 6 months before I met her. So at the end of that, if we wanted to stay together, she had to be on a different type of visa. The government at the time wouldn't allow you to change from a student visa to a work visa, but we could change to a marriage visa.
Wow.
Now,
okay.
you're together 2.5 years, you're living together, you know if you're going to get married at some point or not. You pretty much know. So we knew we were going to get married. We didn't want to yet because we wanted to save up, have a wedding, have both families come. But we didn't really have much choice. We had to get married to change to a marriage visa. So we got married on my birthday. That's smart because that means I'll never forget the anniversary.
Very clever, very clever.
Yeah. So married. Then, once marriage was done, I filled out all the paperwork for marriage visa. I checked everything. I dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. It was perfect. I made sure it was perfect on the Tuesday. Finished preparing on the Wednesday, but I was at work, so I couldn't go to the post office. And then on the Thursday, I had the day off, went to the post office, sent it by recorded delivery. All solved. 6 weeks waiting, comes back, rejected.
Okay, why was it rejected?
Well, this is what made me really mad at the time, but turned out to be a good thing. On the Wednesday, the government had increased the fee for a marriage visa from £750 to £800. So the cheque that I sent was £50 short, so they couldn't process the payment. Insufficient payment meant application rejected. Any further applications must be done from the applicant's home country, and you cannot reapply for at least 6 months, meaning she had to leave the country.
Wow.
So I had to leave with her.
Okay, so that's what led you to come to Thailand, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see we had any choice.
Was the plan to go to Thailand, stay for 6 months and then go back to the UK, or was the plan just to see what happened?
I don't think we ever discussed that. I think we just decided we'd move to Thailand and live here for the foreseeable future. I don't remember ever discussing coming back because I think it was going to cost so much to move countries anyway, and just moving back in to England again, it wasn't even on the cards. Maybe once we'd spent a few years here it might have been, but I ended up falling in love with the country. It's a much better country than England in a lot of ways.
Why? What's the difference?
Freedom for one, potential for making something for yourself. Like in England, everything's so expensive, tax is so high, it's cost of living's off the scale in certain places. There's no way that I would ever be able to afford a property in England.
Okay.
And that's not even just London. Anywhere in England, it would be so expensive. You know, trying to get a mortgage without having enough saved up to put a deposit down, trying to save up a deposit while I'm paying crazy rent prices, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's the same in Ireland, the same in Dublin, or same where I come from. So, all right, so you're in Thailand, you arrive over here, where do you live? What are you doing?
We moved straight in with her family, and she wanted to live with family. I'm a very easygoing, laid-back person. I just roll with the punches, so okay, we'll live with the family.
In Bangkok?
Yeah, her mum lived in the city, still does. She's got a decent paying job, decent sized house, and in that house there was the mum, an uncle, 2 cousins, a sister, an aunt, and at various other times 2 or 3 more people would be living there, and then my wife and I moved in, so on average there were 10 people living there.
Okay, so what was life like living with a Thai family?
Good for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. You're never exactly lonely. Like, there's always someone around, there's always someone to talk to. You're lonely in a weird way. It's odd because there's so many people there, so you should always be fine, but they're always, you know, talking to each other in Thai, watching Thai TV. They're sitting around a table eating for 4 hours, which is Thai style, and that's not my style. So I would often spend a lot of time sort of in my room reading or watching TV on my own, despite being surrounded by people.
Okay.
But if I wanted someone to talk to, I could always go downstairs. They didn't all speak Thai, which obviously made it a bit difficult at times.
And did you learn the language?
Some. Thai people don't always like teaching foreigners to speak Thai, because what happens is we will pronounce a word wrong, and that will be hilarious, and the Thai people will laugh lots. And then you'll ask them, how should I say it? And they will respond with, no, say it again, it's funny. But I want to learn Thai, and they just want to laugh. And it's not easy to learn Thai from, you know, especially from the family. If you need to learn Thai, go online, do it yourself, go to a school and do it. But you don't really need Thai, especially in Bangkok.
Okay, why not? Why don't you need Thai?
It's an international city. Everything's in English. The vast majority of people here speak English, enough broken English to get you through the day. And the younger the person you meet and talk to, the better their English tends to be. So Bangkok doesn't really reflect Thailand in a way. It's too international now.
Okay.
You don't need Thai.
So let's talk about, like, what did you do for work?
The easiest thing to do, teach English.
Okay.
Before we came out here, we had about 5 months before moving here where we knew we had to move because there was no choice. So they gave me 5 months for us to make our plans and prepare. My wife, she had a job lined up during that time, so she was fine when she got here, I think, or either that or she got the job within 2 weeks of landing. It was pretty quick, and I knew from a lot of research the easiest job for me to get is English teacher.
Okay, so did you work at, like, what's your first job? Did you work at school, a language school? Where'd you work?
I got 2 jobs at the same time. I signed up with an agency because that's the quickest, easiest way to just jump in and get some work and some experience. So they stuck me in a kindergarten, and that was Monday to Friday. And walking around the area where my wife was working, there was a language school that approached me and asked me if I'm an English teacher. And do you want to work here? Yeah. So I chose English teacher because it's the easiest thing to get jobs. The jobs came to me. I didn't even, like the agency, I don't know how they got my details. I assume it was through the company I did my TEFL with, but I never applied for a job and I ended up with 2.
Okay, and so you worked for a couple of years teaching, and then I think at one point you told me that you had your own business, or you were teaching.
A friend of mine and we ran an English language school for about 2 or 3 years. So we were teaching plus running it, and
what was that like, running a language school over here?
Worrying, always worrying, because all the overheads, and are enough students going to come in, and then every 6 months a new language school nearby opens up. It's a cutthroat business, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's stressful.
All right, so you're working in Bangkok, you're teaching. Are you still living with your Thai family the whole time, or?
Yep, we were still living there until must be almost 2 years now. Wife and I separated amicably about 2 years ago, and I moved out about 1 year ago, I think, maybe 6 months ago. I stayed living there for a while, but moved into a spare bedroom. Having lived with them for 8 years, even after we separated, we're still family. We got a kid together, and it was a very friendly separation, so it was fine for me to stay there. But I've been out of the house now for about, I think it's maybe 8 months. I've lost track of time.
So what was the, like, going from living with a Thai family to being single in Bangkok? What was that transition like?
Tough. It's tough for me because I moved away from my son, and so I went from taking care of him all day every day and constantly having something to do or someone to take care of or noise to silence Monday to Friday. That was pretty tough. As for being single, I mean, I didn't really, I'm not your typical Farang that comes out here. I just kind of keep to myself. So yeah, I just sat in my room, watched TV, played games.
Okay.
I'm a pretty boring guy at times.
You're not really boring, because I know you have some interesting hobbies. Tell
That
us about
sounds
your
ominous.
hobbies.
It sounds very ominous.
You do.
Pool is one of them.
I just want to say that this guy is the best pool player. You're the best pool player I've ever played against.
Oh, that you've played against, yeah, but
No, honestly, you're the best.
yeah, but there's much better than me, and I've played a lot of them on a regular basis.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know. I've played with you and like Jimmy White or Hurricane Higgins.
Yeah, they beat me in their sleep.
So what do you play for a pool club, or how's it go? Like, what's that about?
When I was in England at university, I used to play for a league team. So coming out here, pool's always been part of my life. Being a husband and a father and a family man, I never really went out to play much. Once I was single and living on my own, I decided I need to get out and do something. So found the pool hall, sports bar that my brother and I have been to a few times. The Sportsman, best place in Bangkok.
Yeah, it's a good place. Where, it's Soi 12, is it?
Soi 13,
Soi 13.
in the trendy building.
Okay.
And they got loads of pool tables, and I would just go there almost every day for months, just playing.
Was that like therapeutic for you to get over, like to make new friends and meet new people, or?
I think it was just to give me something to focus on, because sitting in a room watching TV is an easy way just to spiral into depression, or like it's a pretty numbing routine. And I just wanted to get out and keep active and do something. And also I wanted a hobby. I wanted something that I could build on and develop. And pool is something where I can track my success and see how much better I'm getting.
Okay.
And I did meet a lot of people there. We ended up forming a new team together and play league pool Mondays and Wednesdays, playing tournaments Fridays and sometimes on the weekends.
How would you describe Thai culture?
I don't really think it can be described specifically, because there's more than one type of Thai culture. I mean, the country's changed so dramatically in the last few decades that if you were talking to the older generation, their culture is nothing like the younger generation. And if you're in Bangkok, it's different from outside of Bangkok. So it's hard to really pin down what Thai culture is.
Would you say that you have adapted to Thai culture and, say, life in Thailand?
For the most part, yes. One of the things that it took me a good 6 months to adapt to. Like when my wife and I first moved here, there were tears, there were fights, because it was so tough to adapt. And the biggest thing that I couldn't adapt to was just how everything just laid back. Anyone who's been here knows the phrase "mai pen rai." You generally hear that in Thailand when you have a problem and someone else is saying, "Don't worry about your problem." And it will be very frustrating when you think, but it's my problem, of course I'm going to worry about it. And when it's someone else's problem, they won't use that phrase. They will make a big deal out of it. But after a while, I learned just to be laid back and think, well, mai pen rai. And I kind of have that attitude about everything now.
So you're more relaxed now. You've kind of.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that with a lot of foreigners, the longer they kind of be here, the more they kind of chill out and get real mellow. And
they go to one of the two extremes, I find, and depending on which way they go, decides whether they can stay here. Now, I've met people that have gone too far to one extreme and they can't cut it and they go back home. Whereas others like myself, they're fine, they adapt, they're laid back, they take everything in their stride and they can survive here. But I don't, especially Bangkok, I don't think you can survive in Bangkok if you're too high strung, if you get stressed easily or worry. You have to be able to relax in this city because it's chaos. It's organised chaos, but it's still chaos, and that can get to anyone.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I love it though.
Okay, do you need to learn Thai to live in Bangkok?
You don't need to. It would help. I would say learn the numbers. Absolutely learn how to count, because you need that every day for addresses, for counting, telephone numbers, and especially prices. You don't want to ask a motorbike taxi how much to go somewhere. He answers in Thai, and you're too sheepish or polite and British and not willing to argue or ask him to tell you in English, so you just go along with it. Get to where you're going, and it's 1,000 baht.
Have you ever been in any have you ever been ripped off over here?
No, once someone tried to, but I just laughed and said no.
Yeah, is Bangkok a safe city?
For me, it always has been, but I don't think people I think the bad guys, the criminals, they're gonna target people that they think are easy targets. And I'm not the biggest guy, but there's much easier looking targets than me walking around. So no one's ever tried to rob me or mug me. I've had police tell me not to use my phone walking around on Sukhumvit. I've had lots of people tell me that in my 10 years here. I've always had my phone out. It's never been a problem because they're not going to come after, there's easier targets than me. I'm sure that's why, but I've heard enough stories that tell me that Bangkok is just as dangerous as any other capital city in the world. So, same as London, New York. If you're not being careful, you haven't got your wits about you, you can get in trouble.
Okay, true, very true. I agree with you on that one. What are the best things about living in Bangkok?
Oh, for me personally, you're never bored. There's always something to do, whether it's eating or going out for drinks or parties. The obvious is the nightlife. I don't partake in that myself. I'm sure I will one day because I'm a young single man, youngish. And there's the pool scene, cinemas everywhere, movies all the time. It's quite cheap. Everything's convenient. Motorbike taxis, the tuk-tuks, the SkyTrain, so you can get around easy. I think if anyone comes to Bangkok and they're bored, it's their own fault. You can't be bored in this city. There's too much to do and there's something for literally everyone.
Very, very true. How about the negatives? What are the worst things in your opinion?
I mean, this will probably tell you how laid back I am. The most negative thing and my biggest complaint about Bangkok is the way they give you the change in 7-Eleven.
Why? What do they do?
They put the paper notes down and then they put the coins balanced precariously on top. While you've got a handful of shopping and a wallet and what am I supposed to do with this? The number of times the coins just slide off. Put the coins in and then let me take the notes. How hard is that? You can deal with that. When it's paper and that's it. Nothing else really gets to me in this city. I'm too laid back for everything else, I think. The traffic's chaos, but I'm used to it. I drive here. The pollution's not ideal, but what can you do about that?
So in the 10 years that you've been here, right, I'm sure you've met some interesting characters. Bangkok is full of different kind of characters. Do you have any stories for us?
There's a crazy Irishman called Pete I met. He comes to mind. But no, I used to do border hops regularly because I didn't want to have to deal with 90-day reporting. So the way I did my visa was different to most people. Still completely by the rules, but it meant I avoided all contact with the immigration in the country. And on these border hops, I'd be in a van for 12 hours to Cambodia and back every 3 months or so. Invariably, there will be a lunatic in the van. Now, if you're on one of these vans and you can't spot the lunatic, it's you. And I could spot the lunatic every time. There was one guy who was a conspiracy theorist. I had to sit and nod and smile to all his crazy conspiracies the entire time. He was an anti-vaxxer. He was telling me about the drink I was drinking was going to kill me as well, and how the American government are doing things to control people. And I was the whole time nodding and smiling, praying he'd leave me alone. Okay. There was one time with a racist guy, spent 12 hours being racist and complaining about everything bad about Thailand. And I thought to myself, well, why are you doing this border hop so that you can stay here? If you hate it, go home.
I agree, absolutely. I can't be around those type of people.
No, I love it. I love the whole country. And you have to sit there and, again, I'm too polite to say anything because I'm British, so I'm not going to tell him to shut up. So I'll just sit there and smile and just pray that maybe the van flips over and he doesn't make it.
All right, and my last question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Probably still here. I can't ever see myself going back until maybe I'm really old and need to rely on the NHS or British government to take care of me. But no, I love it here. My brother's moved here. My dad and mum both have ideas about moving here in the future. My son's here. So Thailand is home for me.
Okay.
I've spent more than half my adult life here. So as far as I'm all concerned, Thailand is home.
All right. Well, mate, thank you very much for the interview.
It's all right.
And I'll beat you in pool one day.
Don't know. I've tried left-handed, one eye closed on one foot, and I still beat you.
Right, I'm going to end it here.